Tom and Mike welcome you to the First, the Last, the Nerdom. Today we're unraveling the mysteries of M. Night Shyamalan's Signs from 2002. This film masterfully blends tension with poignant themes of hope, belief, all set against the backdrop of alien encounters and invasion. We'll dissect the film's memorable scenes, jump into its deeper meanings, and explore how it has shaped the conversation around suspenseful storytelling. Get ready for an intriguing journey into the world of signs.
There's lots of signs going on. Hey, Mike.
Hey, Tom.
Made me think of the old Tesla song, Signs. I guess that's a cover, isn't it? Or is that original? But yeah, it's back in the day when Tesla was a band, not a car.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're asking the wrong music guy. I am completely useless when it comes to, but very limited eras and very different genres. But yeah, so yeah, this week we're covering Signs, so we both saw the Signs. I'll stop with the silliness with the dad jokes here. Yeah, so this week I wanted us to cover the Signs because it's something that kind of we've both talked about this in the past, doing the show and going through. We try to first find things that we haven't seen, or maybe one of us, if it's a genre shift, where I got a little bit more mileage on the sci-fi front. You have it. You compliment me on that on the other side for horror, as it goes. I really wanted to cover this, but we kind of held our favorites to the until we were doing this thing. We are. Just want to say here, I'm going to jump into our bona fides, and I'm not going to take too long, because the creepiest kid ever pops up. That's funny. As always, we're on the YouTubes or the YouTube as the First, the Last, the Nerdom. We cover everything from sci-fi to comic books and horror, cult classics.
Yep. Anything that kind of tickles our fancy.
Yep.
And I have the Reddit of which subreddit I can get banned on or blocked.
Right.
But TB likes this. Last week we did the Innkeepers with my sister Claudia, who's a ghost hunter. So check that out if you haven't seen it. But yeah, hey Tubi, we see you. And and X on X, McAllister_T. That's where I am, and I'm promoting our stuff there.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I am also on X. So if you see me or Tom on X or Twitter or whatever your preferred name for it is, give us a shout out and see what we say. And I'm also available on ApeIt.Ink. That's my publication of record. But without further ado, we are going into Signs 2002. I'm so used to saying 2020. Yeah. So what is your? I guess I can give. It was this movie that I saw that I love this movie. This is just one of my all-time favorites. It's just science fiction movie. It just so perfect. It has kind of a unique perspective from Earthlings' perspective. It's not has nothing to do with technology or whatever. This is kind of like one of those type sci-fi shows or movies.
It's almost anti-technology.
It is.
Turn the TV off. Yeah, get away from everything. But yeah, it's one of those movies. I do believe I saw it in the theater, and it's one of those crowd pleasers. It's one of, I think, the only M. Night Shyamalan movies that my mom's seen, and she really enjoys this movie. So, or at least when it first came out. So yeah, it's one of those that kind of hits everybody. I was looking and I saw where Newsweek said he was the next Spielberg after this movie, which they might want to wish they could have taken that back. But, Night Shyamalan is one of those guys where he could be on a guy's top 10 list of all time, one of his movies, and at the same time be also on the top worst movies of all time for them. You know, he's that guy.
You know, that is such a creative way, a great way to put it, and that is not being insulting. That is that. It seems like if you are any kind of fan, horror or sci-fi or some combination of the two or something like that, you probably have your most favorite movie of his, and you probably also are saying like, this other stinker. Maybe not that one. Maybe not that one. But I believe this one marked the last time he had success, and then he kind of went through, kind of went down.
Yeah. This was this did quite well at the box office. I saw, and you know, well, obviously didn't hurt with the star-studded cast. I saw where, and it's one of those movies that obviously it's kind of claustrophobic in that it focuses in on just one family pretty much. So it's doesn't have a big cast to it. Even though it's about you know, alien invasion. And another thing that was unique about this movie, especially at the time, was this isn't one of his movies with a twist. You know, there's a real big twist. You really know what's kind of going on from the very beginning, even if the people are kind of, you know, shying their eyes away from what's actually going on until it hits them in the face. But it's more of a twist for them than us.
Yeah, it's one of the things. Some of the twists are right in front of your face, kind of thing, like where it's in plain sight, and then you don't kind of put two and two together. Now, I do. This is probably like one of the most perfect movies, where if you are one of those people that can like see ahead what's going to happen, like pretty obviously. I remember some talking about this movie with friends, and some of they kind of fall into that camp, or you know, they fall into like, I just liked it. But also one of the last times before, I think Mel Gibson, I can't remember when he was like, you know, just the worst, as where he kind of fell out of favor, is another way to put it. I think this was before that, but 2002, he plays Graham Hess. Like
you wouldn't picture him as a reverend after certain things that's happened in his life.
Yeah, and I think, you know what though, I think that he's mostly forgiven for the most part. I think that it's no longer, you know, and plus we're for crying out loud, we're not in, you know, we're no longer in the Bush era of Paul, you know, or Obama, you know, this is a long time ago too. So this. I think this is aged pretty well. I always get a kick out of this when I see it. If I ever see it on TV, or it comes up, I periodically will rewatch it over the years. But yeah, the plot basically centers around this family, and you know, dad is Graham Hess, this former priest who's kind of, you know, kind of mopey. Kind of lost his way, kind of lost his faith, lost his shine, is another way to put it.
Lost his mojo.
Yeah, in a sense. And that's because you come to find out this family is suffering from this tragedy of the mom. The mom died in a horrific accident, and it was curtains for her, and it was kind of like the remaining the everybody's back, and there's Rory Culkin, who plays Morgan Hess, who is absolutely adorable. She's adorable. Abigail Breslin, who plays Bo Hess, the little boy, I believe her brother, and then Meryl Hess, which is Joaquin Phoenix, and kind of a cool side note while we're doing this, still in the theaters is Joker 2. And that one that's not getting so much. Yeah, it's getting mixed bag, more negative I've seen than mixed bag, but
yeah,
who knows? Yeah. Also, and like I said, we said Mel Gibson before at the top, but you kind of track this family, and then actually, kind of like Alfred Hitchcock, who I believe liked to show up in his movies once in a while, as just like a little kind of a cool little side extra. He Shyamalan's he also does that as well, in this film.
Yeah, it takes on more of a cameo. It's actually a pretty meaty role. You know, he's got a, and also, yeah, it's interesting that he's the guy that isn't put in the best light. So right. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Maybe he felt I don't know why he decided to take on the role, but maybe he took it so another actor wouldn't have to take the hit of being that guy. That guy.
Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. No, yeah, I was just going to say the casting was pretty good. I saw where Joaquin he got put in because I guess Mark Ruffalo had a brain tumor. It turned out to be benign, but he had to leave production like a week before, and
I didn't know
Joaquin got pulled on at the last minute, really last minute, to do the job, which I think he did pretty well. The only thing that kind of stood out like a sore thumb until you started, threw it in the back of your mind and like, okay, yeah, whatever, is that it's kind of stretching maybe Joaquin and Mel Gibson being brothers. I mean, it's like a 20-year age difference between the two.
I could see that. I could see. I guess I kind of from my perspective, when I first saw this movie, from my perspective, I come from a really big family. And I would say my family is they tend to be more religious than not. Like most big families, we definitely weren't like super religious or whatever, or super into it. But I will say that it's plausible maybe from the standpoint of like maybe they come from a really big family. So like, but I see what your point is, and I was just checking. I knew I had it backwards. It was the little girl was Abigail Breslin, who played Bo Hess. I had Rory. I should have known Rory. Obviously, Rory is the boy.
And Rory was in another movie we talked about a while back. Back in another October, I think it's 2 years ago. Lords of Chaos. That movie about the black metal guys. He was Erasmus.
Oh God! Oh my God! Yeah! Oh God! That movie was so visceral. That movie was that was something else. That was something else. I'll put that in the show notes too. Black
metal. It was a biopic about a black metal band, it was very much a horror movie.
Oh yeah.
Comedy with bits of comedy in it, but yeah. So, and Signs is one a sci-fi / horror / there's a lot of comedy in this movie as well. I forgot about all the comedy. One of my favorite lines is from Bo is there's a monster outside my room. Can I have a glass of water?
Yeah. They and of course the hook here is the kind of like I remember I saw this in the theater when it came out, I believe. And anyway, I definitely saw it in the cheap theater for sure. When they still did that. If you're lucky enough to have those, maybe they're a little bit older movies that are like a month or two old or something, like 3 months old. But the hook here is with the marketing is with the crop circles, and what great framing for it to kind of already introduce this kind of eerie type thing. And of course, the funny part is Mel Gibson plays kind of as he's kind of finding his love and his faith again. I suppose it would be a way to put it. He kind of plays it as the straight character, right? The straight-laced logic, not quite Vulcan, but hey, there's a rational explanation for this thing. So he is running into this thing of these signs, and then it kind of turns out, and this is plus a 22-year-old movie. So spoilers ahead, but we're really gonna. I don't think anybody's gonna get too prickly about that. But if you've never seen this movie, we're about ready to get into it. But and I don't think we're giving anything away too much. Again, it's been out. But these crop signs are some kind of like a signaling to kind of like whatever. And there are just. These scenes in this movie that I love, like where everybody plays a part, right? So I think Merrill he's in the recruiter's office or something, and kind of this weird thing has happened. These things have appeared in major cities around the world. You know, it kind of sets the stage for going from creepy to like jump. They don't take too long before they get into it. And then you find out that it's a little bit more than just things in the sky, and these things in their crop circles, and what happens. I'll hand it off to what was your, I guess, what worked for you in this movie and what didn't work for you.
Okay, well, it's an interesting movie. It's one of those movies where I think rightly so, they didn't spend a whole lot of time on the mechanics of the aliens and how things work, because I think under any kind of scrutiny, it kind of falls apart a little bit.
I could see that.
You know, them picking a world mostly made of water, and their kryptonite is water. It's kind of interesting. Makes you wonder why they picked this world, but yeah, one of the things that may be a detriment to some, but I like, is the fact that everybody's kind of weird in this movie. Everybody has a strange tick to them.
Sure.
I enjoyed the scene where he's in the recruitment place, and the one guy from the States there, he just magically appears like to deride the situation. It's almost like he wasn't even there, and he's just kind of sprouted out of a whole cloth to deride the guy about his baseball career.
Oh, right.
A lot of interest. Right. Yeah. There's a lot of interesting choices there.
Yeah, they try to do a lot, and they kind of traffic jam some of the plot points, like where I think that the connective tissue kind of doesn't really hold together, like you were saying, but it's passable. I mean, yeah. Crying out loud, it's a movie about aliens that are melt when they hit water, like the Wicked Witch of the West or whatever.
Yeah, and this also, there's a lot of the family's stories, like when they're trying to comfort each other or whatever, like Merle is talking about his one date that he had with his brother, which, if they're brothers, I'm sure he would have told the story before. And then there's the scene where towards the end where Graham is talking to his children and telling them about how they were born and the story behind that, which you would think he would have already told them those stories. But it seems like they're telling them for the first time. I think they could have structured it like with hey, remember, or think about when we talked about this. It just seems like there's this sense of them not really knowing each other, even though they're family. There's a scene early on when they think it's the neighbor boys giving them trouble, and so they go out to scare them. And there's a whole scene where it's funny, but it's the whole thing about screaming and cursing. And Graham seems like, I don't know, he seems at times more alien than anyone else, because he's like he doesn't know how to curse. I understand he's a reverend, but I mean, he seems, I don't know, there's like the sense of him just not being new to the world, which I guess he is new to the secular world, but he's been around. I mean, it makes you want to know what he was like as a reverend. How closed off was this guy?
Yeah, he definitely, like I said, he it's not like he's not loving or anything like that to his kiddo, to his family. It's just
right.
He is kind of, and I should mention, this is also kind of a funny thing that I didn't realize, but this movie, the Hess farm takes place in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, which is, if you because we're in the U.S., and in the U.S. right now we're in the middle of campaign season, so you don't go 2 days without hearing something about Pennsylvania, for whatever. So that's kind of cool, kind of a cool thing. But it sets in, and I didn't know this, but in my notes it said that the coloring of the Hess household is one of like the American Revolution. Like just the coloring scheme and decor I didn't really pick that up, but like that would be interesting to
Yeah.
kind of go back. That was from Screen Rant that I pulled that from, but it does have a good visual contrast. I like the way they set the shots up, and they work. And a lot of times where they're standing and what they're looking at is designed to build that tension, that suspense up. And it does it when it works and it's not campy or kind of loosely aligned with the what's going on. You buy it over and over and over again. Very, especially with the kids, or there's a lot of people stopping and just staring at something and like having kind of like a what the hell am I looking at kind of surprise on their face. And
Yeah.
kudos to the actor. Every single person had a very good acting ability to convey that. So if you had somebody that had any less talent, it would look really bad. But for the most part, they pull it off more than they don't. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, and one of the things that was kind of taken with me this time around is it almost wants to be a found footage movie. There's a lot of scenes in it where it kind of gets in that vibe, like down in the cellar when the lights go out. There's the perspective of the camera is almost like, it's almost a character in and of itself, kind of going back and forth to what's going on. There's a lot of hidden stuff that only the camera, that's out of the camera's view. That is kind of plays along with a lot of found footage movies. And another thing I like about it is that there's it's traditionally kind of a sci-fi movie with the kind of going back to War of the Worlds, the alien invasion, but it kind of takes it from sort of a horror perspective, is like the small town, the small family, sort of like almost Stephen King like, up in the Upper East, this is Pennsylvania, but he has his stuff go in Maine, but yeah, it's kind of got that folksy kind of horror kind of vibe that Stephen King stuff that has. And then the whole thing towards the end when they're kind of barricading themselves, it gets to in the kind of Night of the Living Dead kind of vibe to it, which I saw where M. Night kind of gotten one of his influences for this is sort of the Night of the Living Dead. And I guess you're pulling up one of the classic scenes.
Yeah, that's one I can't believe. And sometimes we miss these things just because you can't cover everything. But while it's on the top of the mind, it has to do with aliens, but they you don't see them in every scene, and that's kind of that's by design. And if they would have done it the other way around, like where you saw this, they really kept it to the suspense. They nailed suspense very well throughout this, and that's how they build it up. And then you have this famous scene where it's like, eyewitness reports of at a birthday party and did it in Mexico or whatever, and you see a normal scene, and then you see this thing walk across the screen, and you're like, what? Yeah, and they kind of pan and they show the reaction, and everybody kind of has like a jump. Everybody, like, that's still a classic scene. But I just wanted to kind of mention that there. And I had another thing I wanted to cover. But going back to what we were talking about, what did you would you call this more sci-fi or more horror or more thriller, I guess, or more, how would you describe it?
Well, back in the day, I was drawn to it because, of the Sixth Sense and Unbreakable. He kind of had that sort of horror vibe to him. And so, yeah, it was sort of kind of, I approached it from the horror aspect, and I'm sure you kind of approached it from the sci-fi. It's equally, it's kind of one of those movies that, it's a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and kind of it works both angles pretty well. I don't think it holds up as a big slasher horror movie guy wouldn't get much out of this movie. So I it's not a huge horror, but it sort of has touches upon. It's a kind of gives you the horror feeling to it. So if you're not really into horror, you could still obviously enjoy this movie, and it doesn't go too far in that direction. But it does have I guess the way back in the day they would call it is sci-fi with thriller aspects, because horror was a bad word back then. So thriller, if you want to make it high class, you would call it a thriller. So
I think
has thrilling moments to it.
I wouldn't call it. It has elements of horror occasionally, but it really, I think it leans more on the sci-fi thriller side of the house. But and speaking of that, the James Newton Howard score, it was also very well done. Again, it had kind of an iconic, not quite as widespread or popular as some other movie themes, but if you hear it, you're like, I've heard that before. Definitely, it tickles the uniqueness enough of how they did it, for sure. That also another element that builds the suspense, whether you see it or not, or you feel like when you go back and watch it, you can see, the music is right. It just the classic thing that anything does. The music is just like a subtle little, just enough to, kind of add. It's more additive to the complete story and the scene that you're watching.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it's like a slice of time that's no longer with us. There's the technology, very very little technology in this movie. They got a lot of usage out of the baby monitor, but that was as high tech as this movie got. You had your CRT. You had your CRT TVs. Back in 2002, it was normal not to have even a computer in your house. So, obviously no cell phones. And so, it was your big piece of technology was your CRT TV there. So, it's very interesting how we're so different. The Rory character gets a book on aliens, and that's where they get a lot of their information from. He doesn't have his little cell phone there to look up all of his information on aliens that he would have if this was taking place during modern times. But the whole thing with there not being really any technology, I was really kind of taken with, and there was a kind of a charm to that. There's the family moment where the kids are kind of playing around, washing dishes and stuff, and it was like, okay, that's what kids used to do instead of playing little gotcha games on their phones.
Oh yeah, well, and that's another reason why I love that film, because it kind of reminds me of that, and of course I saw it, and in certain ways they can recreate that a little bit with, like, you assume aliens come down or something, and then it just the plot device would be it interferes with everything that we normally would work with, so that could be a thing. But this is baked in, as the saying goes, and it's something that it did very well in the box office too. I guess that we haven't talked about that yet, but I think it was made for about 70 million. Sound about right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And well, no guessing involved. They have the stats right there.
Yeah. I think it was like 70 million, and then it made 408 million. But that's one thing I have to ask. Does M. Night Shyamalan hate dogs? Because the whole dog plots in this, it was very strange to me. At the beginning of the movie, one of the dogs freaks out and tries to attack the kids, I believe, and the young boy kills him with something.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
It's a quick scene at the beginning, and and that's it. The kids aren't traumatized, nothing. And it's almost like you could take that out and you'd be good. You don't have to have that in the movie. And then later on, the other dog, at times you forget totally that she's another character in it. And then they just put her outside. And then that one moment they go, oh, we forgot the dog.
Right.
And then it died off. It was like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Does M. Night hate dogs?
Yeah. Well, there you go. There's our controversial thing. Yeah. Well, we'll edit that later on and put the top. Does M. Night Shyamalan's does he hate dogs?
We'll have to go back and maybe check out some of his other movies.
We'll have to pick that up as a theme and apply it. See if it's a part of the rules or whatever of his universe making. Yeah. Well, and he of course he kind of had a resurgence of late, like the last 5-6 years, or I think he not everything is right on point, but he definitely has redeemed himself, I think, for the most part, to be a quality bet for better for worse. With the whole Split universe. Well, that was part of that, and then the whole was it Glass?
The Glass was the third one. Yeah.
Yeah, it was great.
I never saw that. I saw Split, but I haven't seen Glass. Right. But yeah, I'm sort of. I think I've seen maybe half of M. Night's stuff, not everything. You probably couldn't pay me to watch the Last Airbender or whatnot, but
I have no interest in that whatsoever. And hey, if that's your jam, great, good for you. I agree. I've probably seen like maybe one or two more than you, maybe. But he's kind of like a one that I really like to go back to and watch. I'm not gonna lie, I have been bitten by going to see his movie like The Village or whatever. It was okay, but it was like not, that was during a kind of a stinker period of time.
before The Village.
Yeah,
The Village. I think that was the last one I saw of his before I kind of dipped out. And I only saw it on DVD, and I think I told this before on our podcast, where I watched half the movie and I decided to go to bed, and I went to sleep and dreamed the second half of the movie. And then I watched it, and I was like, oh, wow, my dream was correct. I kind of dreamed, not that the twist was all that surprising in that movie, but yeah, I dreamed the twist.
That
funny. Was kind of interesting. The only time I've done that with the movie. But yeah, M. Night. So going back to what I said at the beginning of this, I don't know of any person who's a fan of every one of M. Night's movies. There's people that are fans of certain directors, and they love everything that they do. I'm kind of, when I was early on, like with M. Night and maybe some other directors that I was very taken with early on, they've all kind of went through their period of bad movie making. I think another person I think of is Tim Burton. I was in love with his movies, and then he kind of dropped off dramatically at one point. Right. It seems like Hollywood can taint certain directors and make them lose vision. I would say.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. Yeah, he has when he hits very well. But if he doesn't, you're walking out of the theater.
Yeah, and this movie has those moments where it's a little tone deaf, but overall the rest of the movie kind of holds its own and kind of lifts it above its weaknesses. Like there's the scene in the cellar. There's some really effective stuff in there, like when the boy goes through his asthmatic thing, and then is close to death, and that whole scene was very emotional and kind of distracts you from the moment where when they first get down there, the only thing holding the door up is the axe. It's like, what kind of weak sauce aliens is this? They can't get through that door, but they kind of explain it with, oh, they're coming in a different way, but that didn't work either. So why didn't they go back to the door?
Right.
Did they get called back before they could do that? And then this pissed off alien that has a grudge against Graham shows up after all the other aliens have left.
Right. Yeah, because yeah, and that alien is has connective tissue with like one of the first scenes, like where and I had kind of showed it before, like where maybe it was like right there, like where the doctor Shyamalan's character here plays the doctor, the town doctor or whatever, and they kind of have, I won't go into the whole thing, but they kind of have a little bit of history because he I believe he was the one that had an accident and killed his wife, essentially, like that. So that there's that kind of like that weird kind of thing, and he's on Splitsville, and for whatever reason Graham is coming up to like check on it, and he's like, M. Night's like, I don't know what the hell it is, but it's in the thing, and I'm going over here because I heard that they don't like water or something like that or whatever. But like they kind of very cool. They drop a very heavy boulder in front of you that it's okay, I should probably remember that, and you take that in. But then he goes in and he confronts the alien or whatever, and of course the alien is locked up in the closet, which again, kind of going back to what you were talking about, like there's something about wooden doors and these creatures that also have an issue where they can't quite make it through all the way. But he takes a knife and he uses it as a mirror, and then he cuts off a finger out of like shock for anything else. And then later on, that pissed off alien comes in and was like, I'm gonna F up your kid and make life hell for you. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. He's like, they're making crop circles. That's a lot. That's pretty far away from water. I don't think they like water. Is sort of his reasoning. Like, okay, but all right, sure. And then he turned out to be right.
And they don't spend too much time on the crop signs too. They just kind of wrote it in, and I guess it would be probably one of the weaker parts of the film would be these things are kind of indicating that they tell some kind of thing that has kind of some kind of military, tactical, strategic value to the aliens, and that's why they kind of show up. That's kind of like they don't really spend too much time on that point. They kind of roll over. It's just like the book of like they did have some pretty good signs of no pun intended discussion, like when they had the TV people, the news people, kind of like this show you a window into the world of what's going on around them. And there's no way that these you're gonna come millions of light years or whatever, you're gonna come from halfway across the whatever, and you're just gonna shake our hand and be cool with us. I don't think so. which we find out later on, and they dope it throughout the movie. They weave it in, like at the recruitment office, the military guy is like, well, if I were a force, he goes into the whole, I would do a force recon. And they're like, what's that? And they're like, well, that's what you send ahead to mark the targets you want to hit, or kind of it's like, oh crap. So maybe we're in here for this. That's before they kind of tell you or show you what the deal is.
Yeah. Oh, and I guess we'll probably talk more about physical media towards the end of this, but
I think we're getting closer to the thing. But go ahead.
All right, yeah. I just looked. I was kind of curious to see if there's a 4K for Signs, and there's not, but there will be on October 22nd. It's
Really?
coming out this month, so this is maybe a good advertisement for for Signs. So yeah, if you liked our discussion of it and think about maybe rewatching it, you might want to wait a week or two and pick up the 4K if you're into physical media.
I probably if I have a few extra shekels, I will for sure, and I remember to. But that's in 2 weeks and a day, so that next 2 weeks from Tuesday, tomorrow. So that'll be cool.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. They are kind of quietly putting out a lot of movies on 4K. It's like I'll think about a movie I want to see, and it's like it's coming out on 4K in a month or two. It's like, okay, yeah, wow, all right. So yeah, they're just kind of quietly putting those kind of things out. So yeah, if you're into physical media, kind of we don't see a big announcements. One of the websites that I don't visit as much as I used to, but I should, is the Digital Bits. They're really good about keeping track of the schedule for physical media coming out, whether it be DVD, Blu-ray, or 4K, and they also review the quality of those, because they're not all the same. Just because you get a 4K of something doesn't mean it's a good quality. I understand that, like the Terminator, James Cameron did some questionable things to the transfer for of the 4K for the Terminator and some of his other movies. So yeah, you might want to read reviews to make sure it's of a quality that you would approve of.
No, that's with anything, because and sometimes, sadly, more often than not, you get a 4K version of something or enhanced version or something, and it's just garbage. I mean, maybe the quality is better, but like there's no like real extras or thing, and that, but it is what it is. So you get bargain prints of 4K Blu-ray discs that can't be bothered. So I guess we should just be thankful that we get anything, I suppose.
Yeah,
this is going to be something that they look to cut more and more of as the future goes on, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, there's a niche market for Blu-rays and 4K, and I think that's the future of it. Sort of like with records now, it's sort of a boutique kind of experience. In fact, with the October, with Halloween coming up, a lot of the boutique Blu-ray shops are starting their sales, and they'll also have their Black Friday sales and whatnot. And two of them that I wanted to spotlight was Arrow Films are having their Shocktober sale, which they do. I think they do their sales twice a year. This is their second one. They had one earlier in the year. So yeah, if you're into horror, you can kind of go through, and they do a little bit, like you saw Mallrats there. They have a little bit of everything in there. But yeah, Conan and RoboCop. But yeah, they've got some pretty good sales. For them being boutique, obviously they have to kind of charge a little bit more than your normal Blu-rays. So this kind of knocks it down to regular price for Blu-rays. So yeah, definitely, I think Amazon kind of reflects those sales. So if you have to order it from Amazon, you could do that. But since they're pretty much the same price on Arrow, you might want to go ahead and support your smaller companies there. But yeah, Shocktober, and then Kino Lorber is doing their fall sale as well during October. So they have a mixed bag. They got horror, sci-fi. They mainly focus. They get licensed for older movies. Okay. So if you're into those spaghetti westerns, they got all of the Man with No Name trilogy in 4K. So they're there if you want to get those cheap for the 4Ks. But yeah, their sales are pretty good too. So awesome. Definitely a recommend there.
Great find. Yeah. and show and tell. Great show and tell, I should say. So go ahead.
So support your if you're into physical media, a great time to start shopping to fill out your catalog. But yeah, Signs. It's one of those movies that M. Night's movie. M. Night, we always kid with M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong, but yeah, he's one of those guys that you either love or hate, or you love to hate, or you love and hate him. He's kind of got that vibe about him. But you have to give him credit. He has done some remarkable movies, and this is one of those. I think it has its flaws, but it kind of rises above its flaws, and it's one of those that I've always liked. I've always enjoyed, and even though I was kind of cringing at different moments in the movie, overall it's still a really enjoyable experience to watch this movie.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and they I think if this movie would have had maybe a little bit more depth, we would have taken its kind of central themes and subtext a little bit stronger, maybe. You have faith and loss, and then rediscovering, belief. You also have that juxtaposed with the family and overcoming, trauma, like, which there's quite a few that hit this quite. This family is a punching bag for trauma and tragedy, for sure.
Okay. I was going to say also, this is it kind of hits upon the religious in this movie, and with dealing with faith, and a lot of times a movie with this message is oftentimes done with the church backing, so it's a little bit more heavy-handed and kind of hits you over the head. This movie kind of does the right amount of if it's there, if you want it. If you don't want it, you can overlook it. The thing, the subtext about faith and belief. But it's there for if you want to find it, and that may hold more weight for you. Mileage may vary, but I like how they subtly put that in there as opposed to be a heavy-handed message. If for other people it would be too tempting to make it a little bit too heavy-handed, and they do it just the right amount.
I agree perfectly. And of course the signs that you see, which leads into the climax of the movie, where everything has kind of fallen in place, almost as fate would be for each one of these people, and why they didn't make it to the big leagues or whatever, or kind of very cool things that I think hit a little bit harder than the religious kind of side, because those signs, those coincidences, reinforce the family and kind of where they're at. So I think that one is a little bit more thing you take seriously. But overall, I agree with you. Good movie. This again, I came in. This was one of my favorites anyway, and I enjoy a good rewatch of this every once in a while.
Yeah, there's one other thing I'll mention. The ending, for me, is a bit. I always enjoyed the ending. I was looking forward to the ending on this movie, but on the rewatch, it came across a little bit more clunky than I remember.
Okay.
Excuse me. I don't know if it's just our diet of movie has kind of gone past the way you would normally edit that ending, but I think it could have been maybe pitched up a little bit differently, especially with all those glasses of water around the room. I wanted a scene where all of them were like throwing glasses of water on this guy, but you don't get that. There's certain things that could have paid off a little bit better in the ending. It's still a satisfying ending, but yeah, it's a little clunky for me at the state of rewatch.
Yeah, I could see that. I can see that. It's a little rushed. I think it kind of rushes through parts, like where it's just like accept it and then move on. Don't put any much more thought to it than that. It works. It works, and it also kind of, the thing that I love about his movies are his world building is so good and fascinating to me. When it works and it hits, it invites you in, and you kind of like want to know what happened later. You have this natural question, and you get answers like that from some of his movies as he made them later on. There's a little bit of interconnectedness, and I love it when it's like that, and it's a surprise, and nobody really picks up on it for whatever that one was. It the one where not glass, but it was the first one of that, like when you actually found out that it's part of a trilogy. Split was part of that, and then you had the kind of thing, which worked for me. Others maybe not so well, but this works. I highly encourage it. It's a fun movie to kind of put on during the fall, or winter season. maybe summer too. I don't know, but it works. I wonder. Okay, yeah, it came out in summer, so the premiere in the world. Well, yeah, it came out in summer, July 29. But yeah, I think
summer blockbuster. Yeah.
yeah, we're about ready up to, I think, roll it up to. Any final thoughts or anything you wanted to kind of jump into or tackle?
No, I think it's a definite recommend. This was your pick. I picked another M. Night movie for us to go over in the future. I was wanting to revisit The Visit, so hopefully,
absolutely,
in the future we'll tackle that.
Absolutely. I think we're good. I think we're gonna head out here. But if you like what you saw and you made it this far, we deeply appreciate it. We could really use if you could subscribe to our channel. We're trying to drive those numbers up. We're at 222. This is going to be 223 at the door. And I'll go check out the links below for those shows that we mentioned in the physical media. And I'll let you.
Yeah, and if you want to see Rory all growed up, check out Lords of Chaos.
Absolutely.
And our video on it. But yeah, see what those Culkin boys are up to. But yeah, I'm on Reddit. I'll be promoting this. I don't know. I'll have to dig up a Reddit place to post on there because it's currently showing on HBO Max, and they don't like you to advertise their movies on there. So it seems like I always get them deleted, or I was banned at one point from HBO Max, and then I'm not. So whatever. Yeah. But yeah, you might see it somewhere on Reddit. If not, I'll be promoting it on my X account for the FirstLastNerdom under McAllister_T.
And you can also find me on X as well, ApeIt_Ink, as well as my publication of record. What I was going to say too about this was the Reddit is like every other place on the internet in its gatekeeping phase.
Yeah.
The walled garden, I suppose.
Yeah, and I understand about spam, but you have Reddit has advertisements now. It's like you can't get away from it. You scroll a little bit and there's a ad in Reddit. So me talking about an on-topic thing, promoting a video on your topic right. Doesn't seem that much of a spam to me, but oh well.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah. Good luck. Hey, and they have every right to monetize their thing however they want to, but when you start to go in that direction, I'm not paying you money. I have like everybody else. I'd rather pay for my YouTube.
Absolutely. And then on also on Reddit, just to go off on a tangent, is sure. Whenever I recommend something occasionally on the Tubi TV one, and I put it in as the tag is for recommendation. You can see there in green, but yeah, there's been several ones where I'm trying to think. Flesh and Blood was one of them where people were like replying to me saying, "Oh, I didn't realize this was on Tubi, and let me watch it." So I am doing a bit of a service.
Absolutely, you are.
Getting people, because there's like a swamp of different movies on different streaming services, and Just Watch is a good place to find where your favorite old movie is, that we use all the time. Absolutely. And it kind of tells you where you could catch it on. Definitely if you don't look at Just Watch, definitely put it, kind of tag that into your favorites so you could find your favorite movie.
Absolutely. Yeah. Unbreakable. That's what I was trying to think. That was the original one. And with that, I'm going to pull us back into our talk mode here, and we'll also. I've been ML,
and I'm Tom,
and
keep looking for those signs.
Signs. I saw a sign. That'll open up
signs. Everything's a sign. First, the last, Nerdom. Dark, we find our kingdom.
psytrance.